Welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Steve Hare for NCW Life News. Joining me in studio, Corey Stevens. Corey is the recently appointed administrator for the Chelan County Juvenile Court System, also manager of our juvenile jail here in Chelan County in Wenatchee. And, well, first of all, I want to thank you for joining us, Corey.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, Steve.
And welcome into your new position as well.
Appreciate that.
Let's start out with a little background on Corey Stevens. What we're going to do today is get a little status report, state of criminal justice right now in the Chelan County area. But you're in a new position here, and I'm sure you'd like to tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I got my first exposure to juvenile justice back in, I believe it was early 90s, 92 or 93. I was selected as a Washington Service Corps intern, and so I got an opportunity to work at a juvenile rehabilitation administration group home over in the Spokane area. So essentially, young men that were admitted from the juvenile institutions, Green Hill, Maple Lane, Nacelle Youth Camp, came there to complete the remainder of their sentences there in the community. And that went on for a short time, and then from there, I was hired for a position over at Region 1 Juvenile Detention Center in North Idaho in the Coeur d'Alene area. That was a regional detention facility that admitted youth from the 5 northern counties of North Idaho. Absolutely fell in love with the work at that point.
What was it that attracted you?
It was just it sounds cliche-ish, but just the opportunity to make a difference in youth's lives, the camaraderie of working in a team. It was shift work. My new bride hated it, but and ultimately that's what led to returning to Wenatchee. Both my wife and I were raised here, and I made a promise to her when we were early married that if she ever got homesick for Wenatchee, because we were living over in the Spokane Valley at that time, that we'd come back. Mm-hmm. And so she called me on that, and so ultimately in 1998, coincided with the opening of our new juvenile detention facility that everybody drives by there on the corner of Orondo and
Remember that big
Washington.
campaign?
Yeah. I interviewed for an opening for a custody staff because they were trying to staff the building, and ultimately was offered a probation position here at Chelan County, and served in that capacity in our local court for about 12 years. Did everything from pre-sentence investigations and recommendations to working up in the Upper Valley in Cashmere, Lake Wenatchee, Leavenworth. Did some real innovative things with Cascade School District staff up there. And then also had the opportunity to supervise all of the adjudicated juvenile sex offense cases in Chelan County for a while. And then in 2010, I was promoted to the probation manager position. Was in that role for about 3 years, and then for the last 7+ moved to the detention manager position, and then last month was appointed.
Hard to believe that it's been 20 years that the new juvenile jail has been in place there. I remember the campaign to build it. So can you give us a little status report on how it's going at the jail right now in terms of jail population and?
Yeah, things are going great. Just for a comparison. When I came to the court in 1998, we had just under 550 criminal referrals that year. In 2018, we had 127. So there's been a drastic reduction. At that time, we had 12 full-time probation staff. Now we've got 7. At that time, we devoted 3 full-time days to offender court. Mm-hmm. Now we're down to 1.5. We had 2 deputy prosecutors, now we're down to 1. So, and it's not just down in Chelan County. Crime is down everywhere, not just statewide, but everywhere.
Arrests are down, but is crime down? I mean, what's driving this decline?
That's a great question, and certainly I could speculate. I think part of that has to do with the fact that in 1997, just due to the higher influx of numbers of criminal filings, the legislature first started taking a look at making some substantial contributions to juvenile courts to get a handle on this and take a look at launching some innovative programs, evidence-based, research-based programs to reduce recidivism or reoffense rates. In 1998, the Washington Institute of Public Policy suggested that there were 4 promising programs, evidence-based programs that would be cost-effective ways at getting at reducing reoffense rates. And Chelan County opted to implement 2 of those. One of those is the Aggression Replacement Training Program. It's a 10-week program. There's 3 elements to it. One of the elements is that they break down the offense or the aggression cycle, so break it down into steps to show kids how to make those changes. There's also a social skills component and a moral reasoning component based on Lawrence Kohlberg's work.
So these work on the youth behavior.
Yes.
Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other evidence-based program that we launched in, I believe it was 98 or 99, I think it was 99, is functional family therapy. So as all of us that work in the field know, we can be very innovative in the approaches that we utilize with youth. But the reality is that if we don't take a look at the family as a whole, then we're just sending this youth back into, in many cases, a rather dysfunctional family. Mm-hmm. And so our juvenile court employs a full-time functional family therapist, and they travel to youth's homes throughout our jurisdiction. That's a 12-week program. It's very prescribed, and that's certainly worked well too. And I think both of those have contributed, at least to some degree, to reducing recidivism or reoffense rates in Chelan County.
And this is post-sentencing?
This is all post-sentencing, correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But again, in Chelan County, though, we are seeing a decline in the number of kids that are being incarcerated, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
And also a new law that went into place, I think, last year, or 2018, which reduces the number of, let's say, violent offenses that go to jail.
Right.
As well.
Yeah.
So how has that helped or affected your
To give you an idea regarding the reduction in detention census, back in 2010, our average daily population was just over 10 and a half kids. Mm-hmm. I just finished up statistics for 2019, and we're at like 7.3 average daily population.
Really?
So it's substantially down, yes. Probation caseloads reflect that as well. I think it was 2006. We were roughly 200 probation cases on active supervision. Now we're close to 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a profile of the average offender that you deal with?
Not necessarily, because sometimes it's kids just being kids and being impulsive, and it's first time. Maybe it's a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor, and those cases are oftentimes referred to a diversion process mm-hmm. and kept out of court. Sometimes, if the allegations are a bit more serious, they may qualify for a deferred disposition, which is a way for them to have that removed from their record upon mm-hmm. completion. So it really kind of runs the gamut.
We hear a lot about school violence these days, weapons on campus and everything else. What is the rate of arrests, or at least the incidence of weapons-related crime here among the youth in Chelan County?
Yeah, I don't have access to those specific numbers, but anecdotally, I would say it's rather low, like everything else.
Well, I know that I refer to Chelan Douglas Trends, which is a website mm-hmm. that kind of tracks some of the activities related to youth crime, and I noticed that we are seeing declining numbers
right.
in not just weapons, but guns and other types of weapons on campus. Also, as far as drug use, it
right.
seems to be on the decline as well.
Yeah, that's consistent with what I'm seeing as well. I think one of the trends that I've noticed is back in the late 90s, gang violence and gang involvement was a much bigger deal than it is currently. And we can speculate as to why that is, why we've seen that reduction. But I don't know specifically, but I think that probably has a lot to do with the trends that you're referring to.
Has the legalization of recreational marijuana in Washington State had any impact on youth crime?
I haven't seen much impact on that, no. I can give you an idea, too. I know you didn't specifically ask, but with regard to recidivism or
yes.
reoffense rates, according to the Washington Institute of Public Policy, Chelan County's reoffense rate or recidivism rate is about 33.5%. And that's boys and girls combined, all crime classes. So
How does that compare?
So statewide, it's at 41.5%. So we're about 8 percentage points below the statewide average. So obviously, we feel pretty good about that.
From a juvenile jail administration standpoint, you say you have a daily population of about 7 inmates?
Yeah, just over 7, yeah.
What was it built to hold?
So it is a 50-bed facility, and at the time that they built it, that was the largest facility that they could build for the bond amount. And given the numbers at that point, the thinking was that they were going to have to double capacity. They put special brackets in all of the rooms to add bunks to essentially double it to a 100-bed facility. Of course, at that time, it was before Douglas County had contracted with Martin Hall, the only
Right.
private juvenile facility in the state. So we thought we were going to have those kids. But certainly, and then of course 1 unit, so there's 12 rooms to a unit. 1 unit is contracted with the Office of Homeless Youth to provide a crisis residential center. So we're one of 2 located in detention centers throughout the state. The other is in Clallam County. And so that provides law enforcement an opportunity to place non-offender youth that are found in the community on, maybe they've got an active run report, missing persons report, or they've been found in dangerous circumstances. Those youth have to be between the ages of 12 and 17. And so we cannot have offenders in that unit. So essentially that leaves us, 38 beds.
Question I would have for the adult jail, as I would with the juvenile jail, how does the juvenile court system work with immigrations and customs enforcement?
Right.
Especially given the new law that we have in Washington State,
Yeah.
which essentially has turned Washington State into a sanctuary state.
Yeah, the extent that there's any impact at all is consular notification. So certainly, when we have a youth, if they declare citizenship other than United States citizenship, then we provide them documentation regarding consular notification. But beyond that, there's not much there's not any involvement.
Can you provide any kind of a demographic on the breakdown of your jail population
A demographic.
in terms of socioeconomic or ethnic diversity?
I can tell you that that the state allocations that we get to run our evidence-based programs, there's always the component of disproportionality, and we need to submit a statement on how we're dealing with that. And frankly, Chelan County has never had that issue. Typically, as long as I've been in this role and been tracking statistics, we're about 50% Anglo and 50% Latino, and very rarely any other demographic profiles. As far as economic demographics and the rest of that, I could just speculate, but I don't track that specifically.
Okay. Again, we're talking with Corey Stevens. He is the new juvenile court administrator here for Chelan County, and we appreciate you taking time out to talk to us here. Anything else that you'd like to share with us about your job and what you do?
I can tell you that I've just got an incredible debt of gratitude to the 35 full-time staff, full and part-time staff that are employed there at the juvenile court. They come to us, they've got compassion for kids, endless energy, couldn't do it without them. And also tell you that the rewarding aspect of what I do, once or twice a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, we'll have a youth show up at the front counter that indicated that, they were on my caseload several years ago, and they want to show me pictures of their family and let me know how they're doing, in all other aspects of their life. And that's rewarding, because I learned a long time ago, we can't save them all, but it certainly is nice, and that kind of gets you through. It makes you feel like you're having a little impact on our corner of the world.
So there are rewards.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic.
Few and far between, but there are rewards.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and talking
Yeah.
to us. Again, Corey Stevens with the Chelan County Juvenile Court. And again, we'll have to get you back in again real soon.
Absolutely. All right, thank you,
very
Steve.
much. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us on In Focus. I'm Steve Hare for NCW Live.